Well, hi, I am just out for a little run and realizing I owe you an update on my list of best places to buy in the Denver area. I did one of these last year, but I want to update it every so often because things change. And so this is my update to that. And these are just purely based on my personal firsthand experience working in real estate here for a long time, seeing a lot of these neighborhoods, doing a lot of showings. Criteria is really just two things. Number one, just places I like. Okay, places that I have seen a lot and said, this is a good spot to live. This looks like a good place to buy a home, whether or not that's something that's so obvious. And or somewhere where there's opportunity. The market might be a little slower, or they might just be flying under the radar a little bit. Right now, where we're at in later 2024, there's lots of buyer opportunity everywhere, mainly just because of all the inventory on the market, more inventory than any time in the last 10 years. But I'm especially looking for areas that I think there's good long-term growth potential. So mostly places that maybe haven't peaked yet, or it seems like there's good long-term potential for some other reason. Last time I did this, I just focused on Denver neighborhoods in the city of Denver. That's what I do mostly, but for this time, I want to look at the entire Denver metro. In case you're moving from out of town or just want a wider look at the greater Denver area, some of the areas I find most exciting right now are a little farther out, are outside the city of Denver. So just wanted to show you that. All right, let's get to it. I am gonna finish up the run and then head back into the office and show you the neighborhoods. Okay, I am showered and back in the studio. Let's do it. So number one on the list is Northglenn/Thornton. Okay, so Northglenn, Thornton, technically two different cities. And by technically, I mean literally two different cities. I consider them kind of one pocket of the Denver metro. They're just very similar, and they're both so weirdly gerrymandered that they go in and out of each other, seemingly at random. It's kind of one big glob up on the north side of town, Thornton and Northglenn. So it's big. It's this whole pocket up here, basically to the east of 25, north of 36, 270, all the way up to 144th, all the way up on the north side of town, not quite to 470. There's a lot in here, but this year is my jam. It's number one on the list for a reason. So if you've talked to me about Denver real estate and are looking at anything affordable over the last 6 to 9 months, you've heard me talk about Northglenn and Thornton. Why do I like it so much? Because of affordability. Affordability where you can get a house and a yard that doesn't suck in an area that doesn't suck. And I don't know, maybe that seems like a low bar, and maybe that's where we've come with affordability in the Denver metro, but Northglenn, Thornton, you can find these home prices elsewhere, but the areas just aren't as good. Northglenn, Thornton, it depends. It varies a lot by block, and like I said, I gave you a big chunk of land to work with here, so we'll have to whittle down. Typically, the more north you go, the better it gets. It's not going to blow your mind. It's not Wash Park, right? It's not the Highlands. But if you're looking for something in that affordable price point where you can get 4 bedrooms, where you can get a yard, this is your spot. It might not blow your mind, but it's not terrible. So pulling the numbers over the last 360 days, sales in Northglenn, Thornton, median home price, $560,000. Okay, 560. That's lower than the median home price in the Denver metro overall. But the average, or I should say median home, okay, so what you're getting on median for that $560,000, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 2,400 square feet. And by the way, this is just looking, in this case, at single family residences. This is not looking at townhomes, which there are in Northglenn, Thornton too, but this is just the single families. 560 grand for a 4-bed, 3-bath, 2,400 square feet, most of which have a yard. And this is why I like it so much. Okay, so what's going on in Northglenn, Thornton other than a house that many people can afford? Listen, it's got a lot of the comforts and the conveniences of the suburbs. It's got the Targets, the grocery stores, the chain restaurants, all that stuff. Are there some interesting pockets? Yes, absolutely. Is it fancy, cutesy, super walkable? Absolutely not. The one benefit is you do get access, depending on where you are, to the light rail, which runs north-south on I-25. You can get downtown on the light rail in 20 minutes. That, you know, if you live here, is a benefit because the light rail, where it runs, it works pretty well. It just doesn't run that many places. So being on the light rail path, being on that rail is a benefit. This is, I believe, the best bang for your buck in the Denver metro right now. And by the way, before before we go to number 2 real quick, if you don't know, Sam Newman, I'm a Denver real estate agent. I run an awesome team that really specializes in helping people relocate within the Denver metro area. If we can do anything for you, please do reach out to me directly. I would love to have that conversation. Okay, so number 2 is Littleton, specifically the Ken Caryl area over to the southwest side. You've heard me talk about Littleton before. If you've watched this channel at all, I love Littleton. It's one of the best suburbs in Denver. Prices are going to be higher there. I think I told you prices will be across the board in this video. I want to kind of give a slice of something for everybody. But Littleton is huge, and this Ken Caryl part is some of the best of all of Littleton, in my opinion. So we'll drill down to the differences in these particular areas here. But median home price in this area of Littleton, in the Ken Caryl area at large, 1.1 million. So quite a bit more, about twice as much. And the most typical home there is going to be a 4-bed, 4-bathroom home, 3,700 square feet. So much bigger houses in this area. Typically bigger lot size. It's more spread out too. One of the reasons people love living here is because you're so close to the foothills. If you're someone that wants to be really close to the airport, this is not going to be a good option because you got to work your way all the way across town. Really, you can take 470, C470 to E470, pay a little toll and get there without too much fuss, but it is on the other side of town from the airport. But if you look at it, this whole area here is just right on the footsteps of the Rockies. We're kind of right as the foothills start. And what I like about it is even within Ken Caryl, because there's 5 or 6 different subcategories of Ken Caryl, there's a lot of variety in the type of house you get and the price of the home. So if we look in this western flank here, kind of just the Dakota Ridge area, west of 470, that's where you're gonna have bigger lots, 1/4 acre, 1/2 acre, and more expensive. We're in the millions here. Ken Caryl at large, you can go anywhere from 2 million down to 600s. If you move over east of 470 in the traditional Ken Caryl area, that's where the prices get much more realistic. On the north end of that, 600, 700s, they go, and then you go a little farther south, it's 800 to 900, but much more affordable than over to the west. Over to the west, it's more of a gated feel. It's more spread out. You're really in the foothills. But for example, if I go to the MLS here and just pull up, this is what's on the market right now in these areas. Okay, so west of 470, I showed you. This is the bougie areas. North Ranch at Ken Caryl, 1.6, 8 Porcupine Lane. That is a great address. We're listed at 1.6 million. You see, this is what it looks like here, okay? Rolling hills, we are into the hills. Big lots, big backyard, mountain views, and big homes. Look at this. Vaulted ceilings, hardwood floors, nice kitchen. Taking a look at one more a little farther south down in the valley area. Take a look at this and see what we're looking at here. Again, right on the doorstep of the foothills, you see this more spread out, really big houses, big lots. This one's listed for 1.65 million, 4,800 square feet, so very big, 5 bedrooms. You see it's a little more dated. Some of these homes are a little older, 80s. This one was built in 1985, but lots of space, mountain views, trails right outside your doorstep. And then if we go across 470, just to the east, so you're still close to the foothills, but you're not in the beginning of the foothills, if you will. Let's pull one up here, Raspberry Mountain Drive. Okay, this one's listed for 750s. Huge difference in list price. Still big, 5 beds, 3 baths, 3,600 square feet, so smaller. And you see, you have a classic 2-story. It looks more suburban, but you still have a good size lot. You still have a lot of space, a home office. This one has a more recently redone kitchen. Big backyard, hot tub. So over on this side, you see good sized lots, but not as big, not as much gateway to the Rockies, more classic suburb, but a good feeling suburb, not a disgusting suburb, and way lower purchase price. So that's Ken Caryl. That's number 2. Moving on to number 3. Should I do it? I'm going to do it. Okay. Number 3, downtown Denver. Yes, Lodo. Everything around Lodo and Union Station. This whole big swath right down here. Northeast of Auraria, southwest of Coors Field. It kind of bleeds into the ballpark neighborhood, but just the central part of downtown. Again, if you've watched me before, you've heard me talk about downtown. The big thing here is buyer opportunity. It is the slowest market, not just the city of Denver, the entire Denver metro. It's the slowest micro market by far. There is double, triple the listing inventory right now in downtown. Reasons for this I've talked about at length. I won't bore you with them again, but point being, there's a lot of buyer opportunity right here in downtown and a lot of opportunity for future appreciation with one big caveat. So first of all, downtown over the last 360 days, median home price, $519,000. Okay, so affordable, but obviously we're not getting single family homes here, right? The most common home type at that price point is a 1-bed, 2-bath condo, just over 1,000 square feet. So it's condo, it's not a lot of space, it's urban living. And the caveat I'm talking about for long-term appreciation, if you're looking to buy downtown, because I do think right now is still a good buyer opportunity for downtown, you want to look for a property that's unique, somehow historic, or interesting in some other way. I know these are ethereal terms I'm throwing out there, but something like the Ice House Lofts, for example, or Ice House Condos. Going to the MLS, I'm pulling it up right here. Look at this. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. This sort of downtown loft style brick. It is classic, it's old, it was built a long time ago. It's funky, it's not for everybody, but it is interesting. The reason I'm saying look at this rather than something that's more cookie cutter, more boring, there's plenty of high rises with very, very basic condos, and I have nothing against those. But from an investment standpoint, the Ice House or something like it, there's another building like it on Wynkoop, they're not making these anymore, okay? This is something that, despite the relative market downtown, is still in high demand and something that holds its value because it's great that they maintained a lot of these buildings, but many of them they didn't. They're not building buildings like this anymore. They are building a whole lot of new high rises for apartments and for condos. So if you buy just a basic condo in a downtown high rise, again, if it's a good fit for you, no shame. You know, I'm not telling you not to do it, but from an investment standpoint, for years to come, you're going to be competing with all those newer and newer things. And newer typically in this class of development is going to be better. So even if yours is new now, it's not going to be new in 10 years and it's not going to look new in 10 years. And there are more and more of these high-rise type, many unit projects coming on the market. So that market is getting more and more saturated. The market for something classic is not, because they're not making them anymore. So downtown, interesting.
Interesting.
I think that's a great buyer opportunity. Okay, number 4 is Centennial. And if you type in Centennial, you're going to get a whole bunch of addresses all over the place because Centennial is very big and gerrymandered. Specifically, I want to look at one particular band, okay? It's this band just to the east of Littleton. It's this band just to the north of 470, north of Highlands Ranch, and to the west of I-25. So kind of this little rectangular band in here. If we zoom in a little bit, you'll see it's the Southglenn area all the way over to Castlewood. It's this little rectangular-ish band in here of Centennial. If we're just looking at properties here, median home price $640,000, and for that you get on average a 4-bed, 3-bathroom house, 2,500 square feet with a yard. And what is it? Why do I like it? Well, the southern part of town, southern suburbs are becoming more and more popular. There's a lot going on down there. There's a lot of folks working down there, living down there. Highlands Ranch, just to the south, to me, is just a little too suburban, just my opinion. This still has some charm. It's homes that were built in the 70s, some of them the 80s, some of them newer too, but it feels like more of a neighborhood than an overt suburb. So really, it's like, to me, a slightly elevated version and a southern version of the Northglenn and Thornton thing I talked about on the top. A little more expensive, but you get a little more. You're going to get a little more space. It's just going to be a little nicer, a little more updated. Okay, so if we go to the MLS, and just to give you an example, here's one we have, okay, in the Southglenn area on Eudora Street, $650,000, 4-bed, 3-bath, 2,600 square feet. So kind of right around that median. You see, it's nothing amazing, but it is a good solid house. It has an updated kitchen, LVP flooring, split level. It's got a walk-in closet, a good amount of space at a reasonable price, close to most everything, not too far out, but not in the middle of the action. And you see you have your backyard, you have a patio, you have a hot tub, good backyard space. Very common here. Quiet, it makes you feel good. It's a good feeling area. Okay, number 5, last one on the list. And this one I've just been turned on to recently and my appreciation for it has risen. Brady Efting, my guy, really put it on my radar as a legitimate option and I appreciate him for that. So that is Castle Pines Village, okay? So looking at a map of Denver, you're going all the way south, not to Castle Rock, but to Castle Pines Village down here. And it's confusing because if you look at Castle Pines, you're going to see this big area. Okay, but Castle Pines has a more northern area that I'm not talking about. That's true Castle Pines, okay? It's fine. It's just more basic and suburban. I'm looking at Castle Pines Village, which is to the south here. And the reason it's confusing is because if you put it in, you're going to see Castle Rock addresses. Many of these places have Castle Rock addresses. I don't know why that's the case, but it is. But it's this Castle Pines Village here. It's this southernmost part of it, just north of 85. And it is centered on the Castle Pines Golf Club, which is where they have PGA Tour events. It's a very ritzy private course, as you may have imagined. So that is kind of the type of area that we're dealing with here. It's the most expensive on the list by far, but like I said, something for everybody. Median home price, $1.5 million. But for that, you're getting 5,000 square feet on average. Okay, so you get a lot of house. And it's not all golf course community, but it is, a lot of HOA, a lot of south suburb feel that comes with it, but with a very unique twist. That's why I like it. So the northernmost part, if you go to the northern part of Castle Pines, like I said, it's going to feel like it's just a basic suburban, not a lot of trees, more newer builds area. The Castle Pines Village area feels much older. I personally love not necessarily a house, but an area that feels older because there's a reason it's called Castle Pines. It's very, very wooded, okay, which is not normal for a suburban area in this part of town, but pine trees and also deciduous trees. Let me show you. Let me give you an example. Okay, if we pull this guy up here, 254 Lead Queen Drive, all right, $1.9 million listing. Like I said, it's a little different, but look at this. Just look at this area. Okay, this is what Castle Pines Village looks like. Very green, very piney, very rolling hills, not traditional suburban. And look at this. Look at this house. You have space. You have big lots. It's very quiet. It's very well kept. Many of these are gated communities. This place has its own pond. This is not uncommon to see elaborate landscaping and lots of things done with your property, water features. Going inside, this is a 5,300 square foot house. A lot of space. You have a nice kitchen, but then you also have a back patio that's sort of raised up. It's on one of these hills, so you're getting some mountain views. You see the primary bedroom, primary bathroom, which has been remodeled like much of the house. This one was built in 1996, so it's not as old as some of these areas I'm talking about. But to just give you one more example, let's pull up here 36 Castle Pines Drive, okay? This one's awesome. This is listed for just under $2 million, built in 1984. I actually showed this house. It has its own private pond, and this has tons of charm. Maybe a bit quirky, but you're seeing, again, you're in the pines. You feel like you're in a forest a little bit. That's what I like about this over a lot of these suburban areas with similar price points, by the way. Big open kitchen. A lot of these are going to have higher end features. Sub-zero refrigerator, for example. And solitude. It's like you're living in a community, but there's a lot of privacy. Something about trees, it just does that. And just for comparison, if we go more north to the traditional Castle Pines area with the Castle Pines address, right? Let's take this one, Bramblewood Drive, okay? $830,000, so considerably different. It's hard to even compare, but here's what you're seeing. Yes, it does have a tree, some trees, but it just feels much more basic suburban. Looking at the yard, looking at the area, completely different vibe. That's all I got today. You are the best. And if you're still watching and interested in one of my most underrated Denver neighborhoods, specifically a neighborhood I think really flies under the radar, that's called Holly Hills. And I did a neighborhood tour of that. You may want to check that out here. Otherwise, you are the best. Let me know what I can do for you. Talk soon.